Hello, and welcome to the 66th episode of Jazzology, presented by Savage Content. I'm your host, Willard Jenkins, and we're here alternating Fridays, giving two jazz fans the opportunity to compete against each other for a chance to win $100. Each contestant will be asked a question worth 2 points. If they're unable to answer correctly, their opponent will have a chance to steal the question for 1 point. We will ask 10 questions, and at the end of the 10 questions, the person with the lowest score will get a bonus question for the opportunity to tie the score, no matter how far they're behind in the score. If they're successful, the game will go to sudden death. The person in the lead at the end of regulation will go first, and each contestant will take turns trying to answer the sudden death multiple choice question until we have a winner. And now let's meet this week's contestants. Our champion for this 66th episode of Jazzology is Ted Panken. Ted Panken vanquished our previous all-time champion, Matt Marowich. Ted is an American jazz journalist and former jazz history professor who has written extensively for DownBeat, Jazziz, and Jazz Times magazines, as well as for the New York Times, the New York Daily News, and various other publications. He has written more than 500 liner notes. For more than 20 years, Ted broadcasted jazz and creative music for stations like WHPK-FM in Chicago and WKCR in New York. Ted Panken co-authored the book My Life in E-Flat, the Autobiography of Phil Woods, for which he earned the 2021 Robert Palmer-Helen Oakley Dance Award for writing from the Jazz Journalists Association, which honored him with its Lifetime Achievement in Jazz Journalism Award in 2016. Since 2015, Ted's conducted several dozen public interviews in conjunction with the National Jazz Museum in Harlem. Many of his extensive interviews and articles are included in the 220 posts on Ted Panken's blog titled Today is the Question. Welcome back, Ted.
Thank you, Willard. You're making me sound good. I appreciate it.
Well, let's meet our challenger. Our challenger for this 66th episode of Jazzology is Scott Yanow. Over the span of 50 years, jazz journalist Scott Yanow has written 12 books, penned over 950 liner notes, my goodness, reviewed over 22,000 recordings, conducted many interviews, and written historic articles. Scott Yanow is a regular contributor to 6 magazines: DownBeat, Jazziz, the New York City Jazz Record, the Syncopated Times, the Jazz Rag out of England, and the Los Angeles Jazz Scene. Scott Yanow's newest book, titled Life Through the Eyes of a Jazz Journalist, My Jazz Memoirs, is out now. Welcome, Scott. Your first bat.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and good to see you, both of you.
All right. And now let's get to today's Jazzology. And as our reigning champion, Ted Panken goes first. Ted, the book titled Upright Bass is the biography of whose life? Would that be A, Ray Brown, B, Jimmy Blanton, C, Jamil Nasser, D, Percy Heath, or E, Milt Hinton?
Okay, Willard, you're starting with a tough one for me. I think I'm going to have to guess. So I'm going to borrow Brother Merowitz's MO and try to reason this out. Upright bass. Well, Jimmy Blanton, I'm quite sure didn't write a autobiography.
No, this is not an autobiography.
A biography of Jimmy. Oh, it's a biography. Okay. I missed that. I missed that nuance.
Yeah, the book is a biography.
It's a biography. Okay. Okay. Well, you know something? I missed the title, and I'm not aware of the book. So let me.
Upright Bass.
Pardon me?
The title is Upright Bass.
Yes. I caught you saying the title. I just missed the release of the book. I don't have it. and did not know about it. So give me a moment to, well, it's pure guesswork. And I am going to guess, Milt Hinton wrote an autobiography, so I don't think it would be a biography of Milt Hinton. He wrote an autobiography, and which also included his amazing photographs. I'm going to guess Ray Brown. A.
That is incorrect. And Scott will have an opportunity to steal that point. Scott, you ready? Are you ready, Scott?
Yes, I'm definitely ready.
All right. Well, Scott, the book titled Upright Bass is the biography of whose life? Is it the biography of Ray Brown, A, B, Jimmy Blanton, C, Jamil Nasser, D, Percy Heath, or E, Milt Hinton?
Well, I have to confess, I haven't heard of the book either. I also thought, oh, maybe it's the Milt Hinton autobiography, but being a biography, I don't think it's Milt Hinton either. And it's pretty tricky. So I would say Percy Heath.
That too is incorrect. Upright Bass is the biography of C, Jamil, written by his son, trumpet and flugelhornist Munir Nasser. And it just came out last year. All right, Scott, you're up next. Scott, the festival known as Jazzology is held where? Would that be A, San Sebastian, Spain, B, Barcelona, Spain, T, Terrassa, Spain, D, Quito, Ecuador, or E, Granada, Spain?
Well, having not been there, this is going to be a guess. I would guess that it's between San Sebastian and Barcelona, because those festivals are fairly well known. So I would say San Sebastian.
That is correct. The festival known as Jazzology is held in the lovely town of San Sebastian, Spain, and I'm happy to say I've been there. Beautiful festival. All right, Ted, you're up next. You got to catch up. Scott's up too. Ted, who was the vocalist on the Dial label release of Dark Shadows? Would that have been A, Kenny Haygood, B, Earl Coleman, C, Dave Lambert, D, Sarah Vaughan, or E, Billy Eckstine?
Okay. You want me to go through the reasoning process, right? And I'm not positive, but I do think I know who it is.
Okay.
Unless I'm very mistaken, neither Sarah Vaughan nor Billy Eckstine recorded for Dial, although both recorded before Dial was founded in 1946. Billy Eckstine, I think they recorded for Deluxe, if I'm not mistaken. Dave Lambert didn't record for Dial, and I think and Kenny Haygood's recordings in the 40s are for Savoy. So unless I'm forgetting something, I have to go with B, Earl Coleman.
That is correct. It was Earl Coleman who recorded Dark Shadows for the Dial label. Scott, you're up next. We're tied 2. Scott, the 2010 book Princess Noire, subtitled The Tumultuous Reign of Nina Simone, was authored by which of the following writers? Would that be A, Farrah Jasmine Griffin, B, Angela Davis, C. Nadine Cohodes, D. Gene Stearns, or E. Lillian Ross?
Well, I'm sure that it was not Angela Davis, and unfortunately, I don't have the book, so it also makes it hopefully an educated guess. Looking at the odds are 3 out of 4 that I will probably get this one wrong, but I would say C, Nadine Cohodes.
That's correct. That is correct. A correct guess. All right, Ted, you're up next. Ted, what Woody Herman trumpet player recorded for Dial Records? Would that be A, Sonny Merman, B, Dave Stahl, C, Bill Chase, D, Forrest Buchtel, or E, Alan Vizzuti?
Willard, you're coming up with the tough ones this week.
Well, the champion always gets the toughest questions.
Yeah, of course. Well, okay. I think I have an idea. I have to say that 3 of the names that you mentioned, I am not familiar with. Those being Dave Stahl, Forrest Buchtel, and Alan Vizzuti. I don't know them. I haven't come across them. Bill Chase, I recall, but he was not around in the 40s during the time of Dial Records. But Sonny Berman was, and he was very high. He was he was an early bopper. Died very young from heroin overdose or illness caused by heroin. I'm not familiar with the Dial recordings, but I know Don Schlitten issued a whole record on Onyx back in the 70s of some Sonny Berman tracks. So he was a hardcore bebopper if Schlitten did it. So I'm going to go with A, Sonny Berman, and take my chances.
You took a good chance. That is correct. It was Sonny Berman, who was the Woody Herman trumpet player who recorded for Dial Records. And it's time for our mid-show break. This week we are spotlighting No Regrets, the music and spirit of Billie Holiday, an in-depth 13-episode radio and live streaming series celebrating Billie Holiday's extraordinary musical legacy. The program explores Billie Holiday's early life, her groundbreaking singing style, and the powerful impact of Strange Fruit on the civil rights movement. Produced by award-winning producer Steve Robinson and written by yours truly. It's a pleasure writing that series. No Regrets is narrated by noted radio voice Rhonda Hamilton. The series features interviews with Angela Davis, Cassandra Wilson, Beth Roars, Andromeda Toure, Phil Schaap, Dan Morgenstern, and many more. Again, the series is titled No Regrets, the music and spirit of Billie Holiday. It's a radio documentary airing and live streaming on KKJZ 88.1 FM, the station known as KJazz, out of Long Beach, California, or kkjz.org every Wednesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And now we go to Scott for what is our first-timers question at the mid-show break. Scott, how did you fall in love with jazz?
Well, jazz was really not part of my childhood at all. What happened was that one day I looked in the Los Angeles Times, and under the radio listings, they mentioned a Dixieland show that was on Monday through Friday, 5 to 6 p.m. on a long, dormant radio station, KRHM. And I thought, well, this would be happy music. I'd seen the movie The Five Pennies, and Danny Kaye and Louis Armstrong in that movie seemed to be having a great time. So I started tuning into the station, and within a day or two, I was definitely addicted. And pretty soon I was taping a lot of songs on my cassette recorder. 6 months later, I discovered swing through Chuck Cecil's Swinging Years. And then when I went to college, I heard the names Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie, but didn't know who they were at all. So I happened to go to a used record store, College Records, where for $1.99, they sold a Charlie Parker record that had a lot of songs I never heard of, like Night in Tunisia and Grooving High. But it did have one song I'd heard of, White Christmas. So I thought, okay, I'll buy this one and see what it's all about. And it took, when I first put it on, the first few times I heard it, I couldn't quite figure out what Charlie Parker was doing. But within a week, the doors had opened. And from then on, I've been very curious about all eras of jazz. And very soon I was listening to Miles Davis's Bitches Brew and Coltrane with Pharoah Sanders. So I went up to the present time, what was the present time then, very quickly. And I've been curious about the music ever since.
Well, curiosity has certainly served all of us well, because I think each of us could say that curiosity is what led us down this road in terms of exploring the music. So, Ted, I got to ask you, since you've answered this question previously, Ted, how did you first determine that you wanted to pursue jazz journalism?
That's a complicated question. I don't know if I can answer that in a short amount of time. I'll say that it was I have to say it happened by accident. Basically, through doing the radio shows in New York, musicians started asking me to write liner notes. Then that led to magazines asking me to do pieces, and one thing led to another. That's to say more than that would be dull.
Well, again, I think you'd agree that curiosity served you well in terms of your exploration of jazz.
I wouldn't trade it.
All right. Well, our Jazzology record of the week comes posthumously from the late great trumpeter. Let's see if we can see this. The late great trumpeter Roy Hargrove. Mm. The record is called Grand Terre on the Verve label, and it's with Roy Hargrove's Latin-flavored band that he called Cresol. This is our record of the week. Roy Hargrove, Grand Terre on the Verve label. Scott, you're up next. You ready for us?
Yes, definitely.
All right, Scott. Miles Davis first met Charlie Parker when whose band came through St. Louis? Would that have been A, Earl Hines, B, Billy Eckstine, C, Dizzy Gillespie, D, Jay McShann, or E, Buster Smith?
Well, those are all very good choices since they were all active in the early 40s. Buster Smith didn't lead his own band, although he was a kind of an influence on Charlie Parker's sound. And Charlie Parker would play with Charlie Parker did play with Jay McShann, but Dizzy Gillespie didn't have his big band together yet. And the Earl Hines Orchestra from 1943, which Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie both played in, is one of the great lost legends, because there's no recordings of all of them, unfortunately. But it was the Billy Eckstine Orchestra, B.
That is correct. And Charlie Parker heard the Billy Eckstine Orchestra. I should say when Miles Davis heard the Billy Eckstine Orchestra, that was the first time he heard Charlie Parker. So the score is Scott 6 and Ted 4. Ted, are you ready?
Ready as I'll ever be, Willard.
All right, Ted. Trumpeter Howard McGee co-led a band called a Bop Tet on a recording date for Norman Granz with which of the following sax men? Would that have been A, Stan Getz, B, Jimmy Giuffre, C, Zoot Sims, D, Flip Phillips, or E, Herbie Stewart?
Willard, if I get through this, I'm going to have earned it. I know a lot of Howard McGee dates, but I don't know that one. So I'm going to again try the Merowitz principle of elimination. Let's see. All right, who was on who did Norman Granz bring on tour in the late 40s, early 50s, when Howard McGhee was at the height of his popularity? I don't think Getz was on the JATPs because he was a solo artist and he was playing with Woody Herman. And Jimmy Giuffre was also with Woody Herman, and so was John Haley Sims, a.k.a. Zoot. I'm sorry, that's a joke from the last session. I'm sorry. Herbie Stewart, I don't think... I'm going to go, but Flip Phillips was a regular on Norman Granz's Jazz at the Philharmonic concerts and all sorts of situations. And so I'm going to take a guess and think that Norman Granz, although Jimmy Giuffre also recorded for Verve, but I think his Verve recordings were in the later were later in the decade, later in the 50s. So I'm going to cast my lot with Flip Phillips and take my chances. D, Flip Phillips.
That is correct. It was indeed Flip Phillips who worked with Howard McGhee on a Norman Granz recording date titled Boctet. So Scott, kind of like the rap battles of today, what song did Miles Davis write in a humorous answer or response to Thelonious Monk's tune, Well, You Needn't? Was that title A, I Didn't, B, So What, C, I Couldn't, D, Why Not, or E, Stick It?
Well, looking at that, So What is, obviously a standard. The other ones I hadn't heard of. Well, You Needn't, I Didn't would be the most logical one, but I guess, yeah, it's tough. It's between I Didn't and So What. I don't think the other three songs exist, but might be wrong about that. So let's see. I'll take a chance just because it's better English and say I Didn't, A.
That is correct. Miles Davis did indeed write the tune I Didn't in response to Thelonious Monk's Well, You Needn't. So, Ted, you're up next, and it's time to play catch-up. Ted, name the 1959 documentary film for which Sun Ra wrote the score and was featured with his band. Was that film titled The Great Beyond, A, B, Space is the Place, C, Beyond Saturn, D, The Cry of Jazz, or E, Jazz Beyond Borders?
Okay, this is a tricky one too, because oddly enough, I know who the director was. It was Ed Bland, but I don't remember the title with that same instantaneous recollection. I don't believe Sun Ra was playing Space is the Place in 1959. It wasn't The Great Beyond. It wasn't Beyond Saturn. And it wasn't Jazz Beyond Borders. That doesn't sound right. And so I am going to go with The Cry of Jazz. By Ed Bland.
It was indeed The Cry of Jazz. And we are tied with Scott. Up next, Scott, name the jazz man who was an actor in the jazz-based film titled A Man Called Adam. Would that have been A, Duke Ellington, B, Chet Baker, C, Louis Armstrong, D, Count Basie, or E, Nat Adderley?
Well, Craig, A Man Named Adam was a Sammy Davis Jr. film, and it was a pretty good one from the mid-'60s. more serious than most jazz films. And Nat Adderley actually played on the soundtrack. I think he might have played for Sammy Davis Jr. So, but I know that Louis Armstrong was in it. So, and it was actually one of his better dramatic roles. So I'll say C, Louis Armstrong.
That is correct. It was indeed Louis Armstrong. And you were correct also that Nat Adderley did indeed play the trumpet parts for the Sammy Davis Jr. role, which was kind of a Miles Davis kind of takeoff, if you will. So that brings us to our bonus round, and Ted has an opportunity to catch up. Ted, name the professor and Richard and Elizabeth Case Chair of Jazz Studies at the Peabody Institute of the Johns Hopkins University. Would that be A, Nasser Abadie, B, Javier Nero, C, Sean Jones, D, Richard Johnson, or E, none of the above?
Okay. Well, I can't, the only reasoning process that I can take you through is that I know who it is, and it's Sean Jones, one of the eminent American jazz educators and an incredible trumpet player. All
right, so there you have it. The correct answer is indeed Sean Jones, which takes us to sudden death. And in sudden death, Scott will go first as the leader at the end of regulation. Scott, pianist Orrin Evans, who graces the cover of the current issue of DownBeat magazine, currently teaches at what school? Is it A, Rutgers University, B, Queens College, C, University of Pennsylvania, D, Temple University, or E, Drexel University?
Probably have me on that one. I don't think it's Rutgers or Temple, but I'm not sure. So this is a wild guess, and if it's true that it's not those two, then I have a 1 out of 3 chance of getting this right. I will say Drexel University, E.
That is incorrect. Ted with an opportunity to steal the points. Ted, pianist Orrin Evans, who graces the cover of the current issue of DownBeat magazine, currently teaches at what school? Would that be A, Rutgers University, B, Queens College, C, University of Pennsylvania, D, Temple University, and E, Drexel University has been eliminated?
It's a tricky question, and I'm not positive about this. Orrin Evans is a proud Philadelphia. Is a proud. Adam left a message in the lower corner. Is a proud Philadelphian, so you might think that he teaches at University of Pennsylvania or Temple, but I don't think so, and I'm pretty sure he's not at Queens College. And the back of my mind, I am going to say A, Rutgers University.
That is correct. That is correct, and that puts Ted Panken over the top. Congratulations to Ted Panken on winning our 66th episode of Jazzology.
Like Sabrina Ionescu, last second.
We encourage everyone to try your hand and play Jazzology. And if anyone watching would like to become a contestant on Jazzology, click the link below and simply fill out the form. You must be 18 years old or older, and be sure to follow us on social media at Jazzology Trivia Show to get all the latest news and updates. Thanks so much to Ted Panken for that buzzer beater, and to Scott Yanow, and to everyone who joined us for our 66th episode of Jazzology. Remember, you can check out Jazzology every other Friday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time And if you missed the show live, you can find the archive on the Savage Content YouTube channel. Thank you so much, Ted and Scott.
Scott, you did a great job.
Take care. Yes, indeed. This was
I gave you a little competition.